Well, someone is still trying to kill the president, even as we celebrate 250 years as a nation. We're going to talk about that and a whole lot more on this episode of Charlie Crimebuster. It's what some people are calling it the fastest minutes in podcasting.
The views and opinions expressed in this presentation are solely those of the individuals participating and do not represent those of city, county, state, or federal law enforcement agencies, nor sponsors and platforms of this presentation. The Charlie Crimebuster name and all forms and abbreviations are property of its owner, and its use does not imply endorsement of or opposition to any specific organization, product, or service. All individuals described or mentioned in the presentation should be considered innocent unless or until found guilty in a court of law. This presentation contains adult subject matter. Listener and viewer discretion is advised.
Well, welcome to today's episode, which is produced, by the way, on the 4th of July. Yep, happy birthday, America. Happy 250 years of freedom. And by the way, let me encourage you to hang in there because you're going to see there is a reason I chose to share this episode on this day. And it goes all the way back to 250 years ago regarding political violence. Hey, do you remember your first date? Now think about it. Or maybe even better, do you think about the first time you ever met your significant other? Now, all of us can probably remember that day. Some of you may want to forget that day. And yes, I am laughing out loud, LOL, for that. But you still remember. Well, we at Charlie Crimebuster, we also remember that there are those every day who will click on a Charlie Crimebuster episode for the very first time. We call you first-time listeners. But guess what? Today you get a promotion. Yep, we're going to start calling you an honored first-time listener. And we are encouraging you as a first-time listener to reach out with a shout-out. Yep, reach out with a shout-out. Reach me, charliecrimebuster@gmail.com. You can ask questions, make suggestions, lodge objections. And if you're emailing in the month of July, the 250th birthday of our country, well, we're going to say thank you by sending you a link to all the great safety apps that are out there that'll help you and your family be safe. That's right. We want you to be safe because you're a Charlie Crime Train passenger. And even if you're a seasoned listener, that'll work for you too. Just shout out. Reach out with a shout out. Tell us where you're from. We love hearing from our Charlie Crime Train passengers. Now also do us a solid. Leave us a 5-star review. That'll boost those algorithms out there. You know, those algorithms that will actually help us get the program out to more people. And by the way, hit that subscribe button. That way you will be notified every time we drop an episode. We're sponsored, my friend, by PeacemakerNetwork.com, those people who run toward danger instead of away from danger.
The following podcast is brought to you by PeacemakerNetwork.com. PeacemakerNetwork.com. Audio is provided by Pixabay.com. That's Pixabay.com.
Now to our focus. Someone is still trying to kill the president, and they chose the venue at a part of our country's Big Bash birthday party. Yep, Big Bash birthday party. It was an event at the White House. And little did many know the thousands and millions who watched that event, both there alive and on media outlets. Few people really realized at that time that there was an elaborate plan to kill the president. We're going to tell you all about that today. But as I said earlier, there is a reason. There is a reason why we're doing this podcast this week and talking about this subject. You see, some 250 years ago, believe it or not, someone then was trying to kill the president. And there wasn't just one assassination plot against George Washington. There were several over his lifetime. But the first major one, the first major documented plot, well, it even happened before the United States became independent. You see, a lot of people don't understand that we were already at war prior to the signing of the Declaration of Independence. This was when George Washington was the commander-in-chief of the Continental Army. It's called the Hickey Plot. And the story goes something like this. It was the spring and early summer of 1776. The American colonies were already at war with Britain, but they had not yet declared independence. George Washington had recently taken command of the Continental Army and established his headquarters, well, up there in New York City. Just about everybody thought that the British would probably attack New York, that city, filled with patriot soldiers. And it also had some loyalists. Loyalists, those were the people that were still loyal to Britain. And oh yes, you can rest assured there were British spies. And then there were some of those guys just trying to make a living, just trying to watch over their business, merchants, and they basically, lots of them just wanted to try to stay neutral, take no side at all. But it was a great environment for espionage. The central figure, a guy by the name of Thomas Hickley. But get this, Hickley wasn't just a merchant. He was a member of Washington's personal guard. Back then, they weren't called the Secret Service. They were called Lifeguard, the Lifeguard. And according to evidence, well, Hickley, he became involved with a whole network of loyalists, those that were connected to the governor, Royal Governor of New York. By the way, he was actually not living inside the city, but he was out on the water right there next to the city, living aboard a British warship there anchored in the harbor. Now, these conspirators, they wanted to do several things. The first and foremost thing, they wanted to weaken the Continental Army. Weaken the Continental Army. What would do that better than to take out their commander, right? They also were busy trying to get soldiers to desert, to cut and run. And they also were involved in counterfeit currency. They were doing everything they could, basically, to assist the British invasion. And the plan was either to kill or capture Washington. There's very strong evidence that they were operating right there in New York City. Some of the people said that, well, the plan was to shoot Washington. Others said, well, they were going to try to poison him. And there were a lot of evidence of times when that happened. Somebody actually chickened out at the last time and talked about it. Still others thought maybe he would just be kidnapped. But there was definitely a conspiracy to take out George Washington. And Hickley was involved in those activities. But that conspiracy came to light. It began to unravel after the authorities were investigating a counterfeit money scam. That's eerie, isn't it? If you talk to people today who know anything about the Secret Service, they of course say, oh, they're there to protect the president and dignitaries and very important people. But then if you ask them, what other mission do they have? And if you know anything about it, if you've kept up with it, Secret Service basically was involved in investigating counterfeits. Yep, counterfeits. And it's interesting enough that it was through the investigation of counterfeits that they uncovered this plot to kill George Washington. Well, that investigation expanded pretty rapidly from that point on. Several members of the conspiracy were arrested, questioned, and they testified that Hickey, the guy who was supposed to be protecting the president, that he indeed spoke openly about joining the British, that he encouraged soldiers to defect, and that he was participating in this evil plot to take out George Washington. Well, Washington himself was informed while preparations for the British attack were underway. And on June 28, 1776, just days before they signed and declared that Declaration of Independence, well, Thomas Hickley, he was convicted by a military court for mutiny, and he was hanged before a crowd. Well, they said that it numbered in the thousands. I guess that was some spectacle in those days. And Washington, he wanted it that way. He wanted people to know. He wanted that execution to clearly send a message that treason within the army would not be tolerated. A lot of people who had contacts with the governor at that time, they did actively support intelligent operations against the Patriots. And historians have found proof that there was this plot ongoing during that time. Now, this mattered because of a whole lot of things. You see, if that plot had succeeded, the Continental Army probably would have fractured, most certainly. Morale would have collapsed, and the revolution might have taken a different course. And guess what? You might have, at that time, if that had happened, you may be hearing yours truly speaking with a British accent, old chap, instead of the Southern accent that's tied to me. But instead, George Washington survived. The army held together through difficult campaigns. It was tough. We were outnumbered. We were outgunned. But something was in our hearts. A cry for freedom. A desire for freedom. Men and women laid down everything. Their lives. Their livelihood. Their own families. In order to fight for freedom. And the colonies, 250 years ago, from this very day, July the 4th, they adopted the United States Declaration of Independence. Well, there were other assassination threats, but this one basically, my friend, was called the very first time that there was a presidential assassination plot. But technically, he wasn't really president then. He was the commander-in-chief. But he was to become the first president of the United States of America. And it does represent one of the earliest known attempts of political violence to remove the leader of the American Revolution. And today, my friend, 250 years later, someone is still trying to kill the president. More about that in a moment, but now it's time to pause, take a deep breath, and enjoy a short, weekly Crazy Crook story. This is Charlie Crimebuster's Crazy Crook of the Week. Well, our Crazy Crook story today comes from North Carolina. Yep, Crazy Crooks are in every state in this United States. There in North Carolina, a man was impersonating a law enforcement officer, and he was armed. Oh yeah, he was armed. 2 flamethrowers he had, 2 crossbows, a pepper ball launcher, multiple knives, and he showed up, of all places, at a Sunday church service. That's what North Carolina investigators tell us. That discovery was made about 10:15 a.m. on a Sunday in a parking lot of the Wesley Memorial Church in High Point. This is coming to us from the High Point Police Department. William S. Milken, 44 years of age, he was arrested after someone called 911 to report, quote, unquote, an armed man dressed in camouflage, and he was sitting in a truck. Well, thanks to the quick action of officers, that man, armed, he was taken into custody before anybody was hurt. Chief was pretty proud of his people. He said the officers prevented a potentially dangerous situation from escalating, and they helped assure everybody attending the church services could return home safely. Also, of course, he took time to thank the people who spoke up. And this crazy crook, he's charged with felony possession of a weapon of mass destruction, misdemeanor impersonating of a law enforcement officer, and possession of a controlled substance. Surprise, surprise, surprise. That's according to court documents. Investigators said he was initially confronted by an off-duty police officer who was working at the church. Milken there identified himself as a law enforcement officer. He said he was a popo. He was a law enforcement officer. You can't make this up. And said he was there because he was enforcing a smoking violation. Yep, smoking violation at the church. He was wearing body armor. The search, of course, found that power launcher. It kind of looked like a handgun. 2 flamethrowers, 2 crossbows, more than 500 rounds of ammunition. Did you hear that? 500 rounds. This could have been really, really tragic. And they found him with rolls of black duct tape as well. 3 knives and, of course, drugs. Surprise. And he had a notebook of addresses of churches, schools, and public buildings in the community. Well, I just got to say kudos to someone who saw something and said something. And this idiot who probably thought that he would not stand out with all that crap with him and dressed like a police officer, and then tried to impersonate a police officer to another police officer. Never a good idea to try to recognize your own self as a police officer in front of other police officers when you're not a police officer. Well, he is indeed Charlie Crimebuster's crazy crook of the week. Well, we're talking today about someone who's trying to kill the president. But I'd like to take just a moment on this particular program to pass out a safety tip. From time to time, we try to make sure our Charlie Crime family is staying safe. I want to share with you that we had a tragedy here in Central Florida this past week. A young lady by the name of Brittany Clark. Brittany Clark, beautiful young woman, had moved here from California, been here for a little time now. She went hiking, just hiking with her boyfriend and her best friend out in the Florida territory. Also had her dogs along, by the way. Now, if you think it's hot where you are, and it is probably hot where you are, having one of the hottest summers and 4th of July in a long, long time, but think on top of it being hot, the Florida humidity on top of that. So it's natural, don't you think, that you'd want to cool off when you see a body of water. Yep. But any body of water, my friend, and I want you to listen if you're coming to Florida for vacationing, any body of water in Florida, you need to think the word alligator. And while they did think that, they actually joked about it, but they did not act upon it. And she, Brittany Clark, was attacked by a gator in about 3 feet of water. Sadly, horrifically attacked, and sadly, died as a result of her wounds. An alligator expert that I heard talking about this gave some advice out. He said, if you do swim or you wade in water, it's best to have a lookout. Often you can't see those gators when you're in the water with them. But have a lookout, somebody looking for gators, seeing them beginning to move toward a person. While you're out in the water, have that lookout. That could be helpful. But then he gave even better advice. 2 simple words. When you're in gator-infested waters, stay out. Stay out. Now, many people vacation here in Florida, and I wanted to give a Charlie alert to you to please use caution. We have 1.3 million, estimated 1.3 million wild alligators in Florida. Now, thankfully, there's only been 33 documented deaths since they started keeping the records back in 1948. And we have about 8 unprovoked attacks every year. So do not become one of those fatal attacks that, while they are rare, they actually average just under 1 a year. While they are rare, we do want to keep our Charlie Crime family attack-free here when you're vacationing in Florida. Charlie alert. Take that with you. Well, someone else lives here in Florida when he's not running the country from the White House. His name is Donald J. Trump. Lives down in West Palm Beach. And part of the celebration of his 250th birthday of our nation included a UFC Freedom event, a fight, held on the south lawn of the White House this past month on June the 14th this year. And my friend, this event that was a part of a whole bunch of festivities to celebrate our 250th birthday, believe it or not, and you probably do believe it, there was a targeted plot to kill the president and several others. According to the U.S. Department of Justice and the FBI, multiple suspects have been charged. That investigation, by the way, is still ongoing. And little do people know who was watching that event that it could have been quite different. Here's what we know about so far. Federal prosecutors, they tell us the group intended to carry out a mass casualty attack during the event. And it was attended by President Trump and thousands of spectators. Now, my friend, I want to tell you, this wasn't some nut job who wanted to make a name for himself. It was a well-thought-out plan in advance. Investigators tell us the plan included explosive drones aimed at areas of the White House, Sniper teams positioned to fire into crowds are at designated high-value targets. Rest assured that the designated high-value target, number one, the president. They wanted to create panic. That would funnel people into kill zones, and when that funneled people to the kill zones, the snipers would be there to begin to take people out one by one. Now, according to the FBI, that investigation began on June the 10th, just a few days before this event, and they received a tip. Here's another one of those see something, say something deals. Authorities now tell us that one of the suspects' mom, his mother, alerted law enforcement after becoming concerned about her son's behavior, online activities, weapon purchases. Now, this is why you need to get concerned, my friend, whenever you might see a change in behavior of people in your circle, of those that you love. And if you watch crime on TV, you'll note investigators asking over and over again when they're questioning people about a crime, have you noticed anything different about so-and-so? Did they act different? Were they behaving different? There's a reason that question is asked. For such people often will reveal unusual behavior, not like themselves. And this brave mom who made a very difficult decision to alert authorities, well, thanks to her, it could have averted a very serious attack and could have even saved her son's life. Often those kind of things don't end well for people who instigate them. That tip led to a multiple state investigation and arrests. Initially, the Justice Department announced charges against 5 men from several states. Following that, prosecutors filed charges against 2 additional defendants, bringing the publicly charged total to 7. Court filings also allege there are additional co-conspirators who have not yet been charged publicly. And they recovered a whole bunch of stuff. They recovered rifles and shotguns and more than 1,000 rounds of ammunition. Did you hear that? More than 1,000 rounds of ammunition. Can you imagine the lives that could have been impacted with that? There were tactical gear and other equipment that would support this kind of planned attack. Now, the motive? Well, authorities, they tell us that suspects held a mix of extremist anti-government beliefs. And they discuss using the attack then to spark even more political violence. See somebody do it, then somebody else tries to do it. And how did they get together? Even though they were spread across the area, they communicated online. And their motivations, well, there were several conspiracy theories involved in it. Now remember, the mom saw something happening. She was watching his online presence. She was watching him as he was collecting weapons. There were red flags that she saw. She saw something and she did something. Please keep that in mind. Because one of the great things about living in this country is that we try to take care of one another. And when we see something, we say something. Now, the FBI and other law enforcement agencies, they coordinated an investigation and they nipped this in the bud. They disrupted it before the UFC event proceeded, even though it proceeded under very heavy, extensive security. They had already designated the event as a national special security event, and they were really on top of that event. They've learned a lot from these attacks upon the president. A whole lot since Butler. And by the way, just this week, we were reminded of the failures there in Butler, Pennsylvania. There was a study that came out by the government, and they are now claiming, this is really, well, disappointing when you think about it. The U.S. Secret Service, according to this report, knew gunman Thomas Crooks was armed and in position for 2 whole minutes before he attempted to kill Donald Trump. This was revealed in a new report that was released this past Thursday by the Department of Homeland Security's Office of Inspector General. They went on to say that the Secret Service missed several opportunities to prevent the Butler, Pennsylvania assassination attempt on the now president during his 2024 re-election campaign. And please don't forget, people died in this attack. People were seriously injured in this attack. This report detailed how local law enforcement first was notified of a suspicious person on the rooftop at 6:09, 2 minutes before 8 shots were fired at the president. They went on to say that the Secret Service had a lack of policy and processes, coupled with limited intelligence sharing and poor collaboration and communication with the protectee's staff, which resulted in a failure to notice the assassination attempt. Boy, that's pretty damaging, isn't it? Now, if you want to know more about this, just go back to Charlie Crimebuster, go back to the episodes, and you'll see we did a whole series when we started this series that we're doing right now, by the way, a whole group of episodes. In one episode, we covered in detail the Butler assassination attempt. Even before this series, when that happened in real time, we did a episode on the failures of the Secret Service, and we found out what this government study found out. Even back then, when it happened, we pointed out these things to you, our Charlie Crime family. Well, thankfully now, they've learned a lot. Thankfully now, they have really tightened up security. And hopefully, that will keep all of us safe during this holiday, July the 4th. So, my friend, our lesson today is a very simple one. And I want you to listen to this. The one thing that keeps most of us safe in our country, believe it or not, it's not the police, though as brave as they are. They can't be by your side day by day. It's not the military. The military doesn't put a tank in your front yard. It's not the government. But, my friend, the thing that really keeps us safe is an unsigned contract. Yep, an unsigned contract the American people have with each other. A contract that we will treat one another with dignity and respect. That we will respect life. For that reason, those of us who've signed that contract and believe in that contract, mentally we signed it, we do not escalate arguments to violence. We avoid road rage. Just yesterday, I read an incident here in Florida where someone was shot and killed. Somebody shot and killed over an argument regarding a parking place. This signed mental contract we have with one another would keep us from behaving that way. This signed mental contract we have with one another will keep ourselves and others safe. That's why we drive on our side of the road. We don't have to have people tell us to drive on our side of the road. We know we should drive on our side of the road. We don't veer into the other man's lane. We stay in our lane. It should say to us that we do not drive when we're drinking, even on holiday celebrations like this. Get a designated driver. Call an Uber or a Lyft. Do not get behind that wheel while you're drinking. This, my friend, is the greatest way to stay safe. This unsigned contract physically, but signed mentally, that we have, that we respect each other and we are to be safe. Go back to the days when the Declaration of Independence came into reality. People didn't agree, even back then. They didn't agree on everything. They were arguing. Man, they argued for a week over this thing. They shut themselves up in a hot room, sweating, with no deodorant, by the way, and they really got heated in their passion as far as debating. They did not pull out guns and shoot one another. They did not plan to kill one another. They debated it. That's that unsigned contract physically, but signed mentally, that we have one with another, that we treat each other with respect. 2, Thomas Jefferson, and John Adams, they were so different. They've often been called the North and South Pole of those arguments that founded our nation. They thought very differently. Adams was more of a Federalist. Jefferson, a Republican for the Republic. They were in different policies, or different parties, I should say, and they had different ideas, but yet right up to the end of their lives, they showed respect for one another. That's what we need more of in America today, that respect. And by the way, let's not forget the lesson we've learned. If you see something, say something. Thankfully, that mother, that brave mother who turned in her own son, is a hero on this July the 4th, because she kept something from happening at one of the festivities planned to celebrate today. She kept something tragically from happening. Well, this is Charlie Crimebuster reminding you, until this time next week when we meet again, please be safe, be alert. For the life you save, it may be your very own.
You have been listening to Charlie Crimebuster. We would like to thank our sponsor, the Peacemaker Network, and also encourage you to support the first responders, military, and law enforcement personnel by contributing to the Peacemaker Network. That's peacemakernetwork.com. All music and sound effects are courtesy of Pixabay.com. That's Pixabay.com. You can also support us by subscribing to our YouTube channel, tag @CharlieCrimebuster, and then click the subscribe button. By doing so, you'll be notified each time we drop one of our shows. Another more convenient way for you to listen to our podcasts, or for you to say to your smart speaker, play Charlie Crimebuster. If you have comments or suggestions, we would love to hear from you, so please send them to charliecrimebuster@gmail.com. That's charliecrimebuster@gmail.com. Or you can call or text us at 407-917-2211. That's 407-917-2211. Thank you for listening, and we hope that you will join us again for another exciting crime episode with Charlie Crimebuster.